All right, we actually have, after 15 years of you hearing me talk about it, 12 years have been here, we actually have made the progress to the point where we now actually have a company, Cognivive. One of our little taglines is building digital medicines that people will want to take, because the whole point of this is we have been able to understand over the years, and you've heard us talk about it, and Tom, one of my graduate students here, is going to tell you some of the results later, is that we believe there's an active compound, like a drug, in action video game play. But we don't really want our grandparents or our kids with 22q playing, Call of Duty and Medal of Honor, and those games don't just do that and that only. So the intellectual property that we created was to pull out what we think is the active compound into that and build together this sort of thing where we can take what we eventually hope will be real production value quality, commercial quality video games that will be so engaging that people will just want to play them and not think that they're doing any treatment. And as they're doing that, there'll be this very targeted treatment for the neurocognitive systems that we know to underlie a lot of the impairments in cognition that many kids with 22q have. So this is really what the culmination of the last 15, 18 years of work I've been doing. Most of you know that most of my work for a long time was on the underpinnings of learning difficulties. And now we believe we have targets and potential treatments. And so we actually have, as I said, this got going because of a donation. And everything we did was we built the prototypes on about $20,000 to $30,000. In the last year or two, because of the business incubator at UC Davis, we've been able to get about another $50,000. We, as you'll see in a moment, we just actually got a grant from the NIH, and we've started to get seed investments. So we've already had a $50,000 investment in the company, and we're trying to really grow at speed. So very quickly, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. This is actually from my pitch deck, so I do a lot of pitching these days. So our really important point here is that we are not a game company. It's a treatment company. It's a therapeutics company. And translating peer-reviewed science into real novel treatments for cognitive impairments. And for, of course, for all of you guys, what you understand is these are the things that lead to lots of issues with number and math and time and money and navigation, all those things that kids with 22q struggle with, but millions of other people as well. We have these very targeted therapies in digital medicine, the digital health space, derived from these beneficial aspects of video game play that we talked about. And so really what you're actually developing here is really precision medicine, because a video game is very adaptive, and it's at every moment for you at that time, figuring out what your capabilities are and adjusting them all of the time. And what's cool about this is that our co-founding team is me, one of the, a scientist who's been thinking and working on this for nearly 20 years, and a real video game designer, not somebody who's hacking up little things like, oh, this looks like training, and we'll throw a few nice pictures in, but a real video game designer with, that's been his job for a long time. So we pulled this together to create things in a very different, hopefully eventually with enough money, commercial quality video game form. Those take about $5+ million to really do the whole thing, but we're raising money fast, and we're trying to go for other directions. We've got very impressive preliminary data that Tom is going to show you some of this morning. And as I said, we've just secured our first grant. This is called an SBIR, a Small Business Innovation Research Grant. It actually goes to the company. It's a one-year grant, but it gives us about $200,000 to build in that direction. We got it from the National Institute on Aging, because the same capabilities that are impaired in kids with 22q and Fragile X degrade in healthy aging, which is why there's a risk of falls and car crashes, and memory with time is very difficult. So they had the biggest phase 1 SBIRs out there, so we went there first, and it is an application. But we obviously want to develop more seed investment like we've been getting now, so that we can focus on the 22q and Fragile X and related disorders, because that's where the passion for me comes from, and that's where all the data really came from. But it's probably unlikely, and sadly, as you probably recognize, the least likely to get large amounts of money. So we're trying to really get the company ramped up so we can put effort into that. And for those who even know, okay, we have license negotiation rights, which means that we can start to license deals with other people if that comes up. So here's our team. As I said, primarily myself and Ted, who's our Chief Creative Officer. He's going to be formally hired into the company next week. And this is a fantastic team of mentors provided for us by the Venture Catalyst group here, which is what they call themselves, the group who is our business incubator group. And they've been incredibly helpful, and you know, it's all about networking. They network us with people and already have helped us really move quite far in this short period of time. The company was actually incorporated January 3rd this year, and you know, we have the equity in place and all the other kind of things that you need, and it's quite a learning experience for me as someone who's not been in that world. And then we also have pulled together a very impressive team of advisors, and that will keep expanding. So this is an old friend and colleague of mine, a fantastic cognitive neurologist at Penn. Aaron Seitz is down at UC Riverside, and he's really been someone advancing the science of turning real good scientific data into quote-unquote brain training games. Arne Ekstrom is a real expert in space and time and virtual reality environments, because most of the things we're now building are in virtual reality, because that's how you really embody spatial and temporal cognition. And then David Whitney, my previous colleague here is at Berkeley, probably the world's expert on the notion of crowding and limited representation of space. We're also working on time, and Tom will show you some more of that later. So that's the great introduction. I'm very excited that we're on our way. I have yet another full-time job at this point as a result. But you know, this has been what I've been working towards for a very long time.